In this clip, a group of trainers discuss what reflective listening means to them and the part it plays in motivational interviewing.
Hello, I'm Alistair Cant, Motivational Interviewing Practitioner, and I'm going to lead on a conversation together with my colleagues about reflective listening. And it occurs to me in the work that we do in motivational interviewing that the art of reflective listening is just something that is almost said so often that it loses meaning. And it is a skill, and it can be practiced and it can be improved. It occurred to me when I glance in a mirror, some days I like what I see, some days I don't like so much what I see. And a bit like with reflective listening, I'm not sure what you think, but it is a bit like the metaphor of holding a mirror up in a hearing way, so that those we're listening to can hear back what they're saying, a bit like a reflection. What's the thoughts there? Just others on this one. Overall, reflective listening, what does it mean to you? Go ahead. Yeah.
It's a real opportunity to check. I mean, actually, we shouldn't assume that it's an easy thing to do at all. Like you say, it's to really get and grasp what someone's saying. So it's a real opportunity to check that. And actually together, for, I suppose, say me to check what I think I've heard, and also for the other person to check that that's what they mean. So it's got that really nice sort of twofold element to it.
Yes. It's interesting there, Lucas. I'm wondering what others think, why that's different from summary. What is it? Because it's part of summary is you check, have I got meaning? What is it that reflective listening does that's different there?
I think it's a bit more immediate. Maybe it's just sort of, grasping more immediately what I think I've heard. Whereas I think summary has got the opportunity to take from much broader sort of, for sort of other aspects of the conversation. And so, yeah, it can select from a broader field, if you like,
Yes.
whereas I think.
Yeah. So sometimes, I'll hear people use the word I should several times, or I've been told. Yeah, and that's important. Yeah. So you immediately reflect that back. Other thoughts?
I think I also am very keen on the way that reflective listening kind of allows you to bring in other elements of MI, so bringing in sort of developing discrepancy by using something like reflection. I think, again, is a particularly sort of interesting use of that technique and can be really helpful for someone in terms of really hearing a discrepancy for themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a reflective process.
Yeah, that's intriguing. And that bit about that bit for themselves, because the number of times when I've just reflected back what I think I've heard, as Lucas was saying there, that people then say, God, I never thought of it like that. And it's their words. So I think, and then they hear something afresh, and it's not altogether comfortable sometimes, but that's the discrepancy. Yeah, thank you.
I pick up on something that Lucas said, that it's easy to be a reflective listener. It requires, I think, a discipline to be present. I'm heavily influenced by the idea that we listen not just with our ears, but also with our hearts, and our ability to be present to what's been said and what's not been said. So the work I've shown about reflection in practice and unpractice, I've applied to certainly listening as well. That ability to be present, to be fully present, to witness someone, to be alongside them as they're telling their story, whilst where we can to minimize our impact. I think it's a hugely powerful experience to be almost, in fact, one of the groups facilitated, to be virtually held. And I find that very moving and emotive in terms of trying to get to the quality of something that is akin to reflective listening. Certainly some of the work that we've done and some of the wonderful people we've worked and trained with, you realize there are so many competing demands on their time, so many structural systems are going against them to actually do the opposite, to not to listen. So to take time out to be fully present for someone, for me, I think is one of the most difficult and challenging yet rewarding things we can offer as practitioners. But it's not easy.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think I'd like to extend on that. There's something there, isn't there, about the noise that people have in their own heads. So particularly when things are stressful and busy, if you have targets, if you've got paperwork that you need to fill in, if you're learning a new skill like MI, and you're sitting in that space and you're trying to be very present to that person, but you've got all of this noise going on in your head as well. So there's something there about just having that self-awareness of that noise and almost giving yourself permission just to let go of that, and just be fully present to the person in front of you, so that you're properly listening to what they say. It is a real skill.
Yes.
And when we're thinking motivational interviewing, we're thinking this is a directional conversation. This is taking us towards change. So I do have to listen out for specific things. And I think that's an interesting process as well, just kind of honing the mind to what is it that I'm listening out for that I'm going to reflect back. But like Emma was saying about developing that discrepancy. So yeah, there's layers of the skill, isn't there?
Yeah, it strikes me, even as we were talking, it's quite moving in the context that those we're working with are involved. To be able to be fully present is the greatest gift in that moment we can give them. And it is such a skill. I think that as going back there, Amrit, yes, to listen to what's on their hearts, to hear the mood music that's driving the words. And it's what's said, what's not said, the tone. There's so much there that we can just reflect back. We're not interpreting, we're not analysing or scrutinising in any way. It's just this offering back, quite neutral. This is what we think we're hearing, and the person can then do with that what they wish. So what's come across already is that it is something that it doesn't just happen. It's a commitment, and it is a commitment of all of what we can bring in our hearts and minds.
Another thing I've been conscious of, again, as we've been talking, is that I'm losing it all the time. That I'm noticing, actually, have I listened? It's something that you can just lose in an instant.
Yeah.
And you need to consciously bring it back sometimes. Because it is that hard to do.
Yeah, no, indeed. There's so much going on that this thing of distracted listening or passive listening is ever sort of present. So thank you, everybody. That is just really helpful and great to explore something that's so often taken for granted.